and I'm walking in this Mexican photographer taking a picture. And the next day it was in El Siglo, their newspaper. And the caption was, Monte Markham is starring in this movie. He will be assisted by Jaime Garner, James Garner. So I thought,
I can't hear it. Hi, I'm Rob Word. Welcome to A Word on Westerns, where today we're talking cowboy movies. We've got some cowboys with us here today. In fact, one is in a movie with gun in the title, Hour of the Gun. Let me introduce to you Monte Markham.
you got to tell Texas on the front row. I was thinking,
I love John Sturges movies, and the gunfight at the OK Corral was just terrific. I understand that Sturges tried to get Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster to do the sequel, but he ended up with a superb cast. Yeah. Jim Garner and Jason Robards Jr. as Wyatt Earp-Doc Holliday.
It was my first film. It was an incredible time.
Yeah. Working with John Sturges, what was that like?
I was called into Lynn Stallmaster's office, and my agent said, I want to meet him. I said, yeah, absolutely. And we went in and sat, and John's a very quiet man. And we sat there, and Lynn introduced me, so and so, and they said, I'm thinking Sherman McMaster's, the sheriff there of Arizona. I said, yeah. Yep, okay. So we did, and I got the role, and we took off. But the cast was phenomenal. I have to say that Billy Windham and Lonnie Chapman and I played a trio. I got to the LA airport, and it was raining, and I'm standing there, and I'm meeting one of the first that was taking us there, and the Mustang came roaring up and spun in the wet, and out steps Jason and Bill Windham, completely smashed, and they had wearing the wardrobe and looking good. And we all got on the plane, and we stopped in Dallas and changed planes and had a press conference, and Jason was talking, we were having a good time, and Billy was talking, we were having a good time, and it was great. And I'm sitting there watching all this, then we took off, then we got on the plane out of Juarez, and we land in Torreon. No film had ever been shot there at that time, no American film. Everybody was Durango. And I got off and walked on down. It was one of these DC-3 like this. And I walked down, and there's Sturges and several other people. And I'm standing there, I said, Mr. Sturges, how are you? And I turned around, and stepping off the plane was two very smashed guys still drinking on the plane. And they staggered down the steps, and hey, John, I said, John, that was John. His face froze, and it really didn't unfreeze for about a week or 2 weeks.
Go on, have one. If you're gonna kill like me, you might as well drink like me.
James Garner as Wyatt Earp. Jason Robards as Doc Holliday. Robert Ryan as Ike Clanton.
So for your first film, you thought, wow, is this great? What a profession.
There was a reading. We all came in for a reading. We sat on a big circle at a train station. And there was names you'd know. I mean, it was I knew them from New York actors, Larry Gates and Richard Bull and Bill Shallert. And then Jason and Jimmy Garner was over here, and then Michael Tolan and Steve Einott and Sam Melville, Frank Converse, the young guys. We were all the young, and Johnny Voight. Mm-hmm. And we're reading the lines, yeah. And they read sometime, and then Jason said, you know, if I say this and so, and maybe this would work. And Jimmy said, well, yeah, I think it'd work if I said this and you said that. And what do you think? And John went, yeah, that'll work. So everybody looked down, we're changing it. And I look up, and Jason's looking at John. Yeah. I saw showbiz. This is great. This is great.
You did that deliberately.
You all were shooting in Mexico then.
Torreon, Mexico. It was the confluence of 3 cities, Gomez Palacio, and I don't remember the other 2 names at this point. The Rio Nazas came in. It was built as to be a tourist attraction for Mexicans to come, Mexico City, everywhere else. And we had the Rio Nazas Hotel, 8 stories, and it was empty except for us. We had a great time. Everybody, all the cast was there nearly a week and a half before we even shot. And it was a very infamous place. Pancho Villa had come in, and he'd killed quite a few of Chinese merchants, and was infamous for that. But it was a very, very interesting town. I have to digress and say during the filming, they ran Ride the High Country at the theater for us, and we all went, and all the cast, and it was just incredible. And then about 3 or 4 weeks into the film, they ran, Bud Baedeker showed up, director, and he'd been working on Carlos Arusa. And Arusa had died. One of his assistants was driving, and Arusa was killed, but Carlos Arusa was a great rejoneador. He fought from horseback, an elegant man, a beautiful man. There had been some documentaries on him, but Bud Baedeker had been working on this forever.
Yes.
And he hadn't completed it. And
Bud got thrown in jail in Mexico for a while, too. Yeah.
Arusa, but so we had the screening of part of it. And from there, Jimmy and Jason Robards put some money into it, and I think Jason did the narration on it, so it was great.
Wow, I've never seen it. I'd love to see that.
It's a very heady time for me. It's that I'd been in theater for nearly 15 years before then. The first time in the film, it just come down about 1.5 years before. It was just...
Yeah, to the big budget with all those people coming down to Mexico. Was the crew mostly Mexican, or was that
all Mexican?
They brought into?
Yeah, and well, they had key. Well, there's Lucian Ballard was the cinematographer.
Can't do better.
Lucian had his puttees, and he was a very elegant man. He said, "I married Merle Oberon."
He made her look really good.
I'm prettier than you are. That was it. He was terrific. I was everything was. I mean, I can't tell you. And then the horses and the guys. And I had worked out with Hal Needham at his barn.
Because you looked like you knew what you were doing on the horse. You all had a lot of scenes just galloping around.
Well, I thought I did. But
what'd Hal have to say about that?
Well, Hal was very cool. He wasn't there on that set. But Leroy Johnson was introduced as my double. And a very quiet man. And so we were getting ready for this big scene where we'll mount up and we ride out, and I'm getting ready to ride, and Leroy comes up, and then John says, "Leroy's going to ride." Well, I can ride. No, Leroy's ride. Well, okay. So Leroy got there, and they cut a swath out in the path, and they go, "Let's go." Bam, they took off. Man, he looked like something. I looked so damn good. And I said, and a follow-up, Leroy was just a very quiet, good man, but he could ride, and he looked great. And somebody said, "That's Leroy. He looks damn good, and he's one of the best riders." So he said that, man was telling the story about Leroy, said that John Wayne was shooting Alamo, and had all the press was there. And somebody asked him about John, about riding horses and what. And about that time, putting by was Leroy. Bump, bump, bump. And he said, "Leroy, who's the best actor riding horses in Hollywood?" And without him hesitating, Joel McRae kept on going. It was just good.
Well, he was an honest stuntman too, then, you know. But you looked damn good in that.
Oh, I felt good. No, the first day of filming, I've got a picture, and it was I had my outfit on, and there was a black mylar kind of thing was wrapped all around the set, and I'm walking in the Mexican photographer taking a picture. And the next day it was in El Siglo, their newspaper. And the caption was, Monte Markham is starring in this movie. He will be assisted by Jaime Garner, James Garner. So I thought it was funny as hell, and I showed it to Jim, and he laughed. So I sent it to my agent, and it was funny.
He was such a wonderful man, Jim Garner, and what I always felt about your roles is you captured some of that sort of tongue-in-cheek and charisma that he had.
Jimmy was one of the best men I've ever known. In '68, I raced the Baja and 1000, and Jimmy was racing a very fancy machine because he had done the racing movie and
Grand Prix.
Yeah, and but he was always cool and always elegant, and a great smile and a great attitude about everything he was doing. But he loved acting. He really loved the work.
I talked to him about that role because it was so different, and I said, you know, I noticed that you parted your hair on the other side to look different. And he was shocked that I noticed that because he didn't want to look like Bret Maverick. And he did. He parted it on the other side. I just thought that was just a great thing.
It was an interesting time.
Wyatt Earp, hero with a badge, or cold-blooded killer. Wyatt Earp lived through the gunfight at the OK Corral. That may have been a mistake.
How realistic do you think that film was in terms of the Earp story?
I mean, I read as much as he did. I did a lot of studying on it. Some time back, I was doing documentary filming, and we put together a 10-story package for the Outlaws and for all the famous people. And we met here and met with Mrs. Autry and the executive director. We had went over all of what kind of cooperation and how can we work. And Wyatt, you know, it's just a hell of a story. Mm-hmm. But that particular episode, it wasn't as neatly put together, meaning in the story, but I think it all happened that way, that he went after him and he killed him. And that was, Sturges was criticized, the film was criticized. There's two camps. Those are saying it's glacial in its movement and maybe it's not really true. And the other side saying it's the way it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, looking at it today, it really holds up. And maybe at the time, because people were expecting James Garner to be a little more light in his performance, and he was just damn serious in that.
I'm on the count. 1, 2, 3. You can draw on 2. I'll wait till 3. 1, 2, 3.
I say Jason Robards was one of the. He was going through a divorce at the time with Lauren, and he had
It drove him to drink, I hear.
Bertie was his English man. He was sent to take care of him. Bertie was like the last person in the world you expect to be in a Western set where there's oh dear and this and that. And he would always have to get Jason, wake him up and get him out of a whorehouse at night. It wasn't, Jason just loved to go and drink and have a great time, and those are the big party houses, and very elegant actually, and very wealthy people in Gomez. And my images of Jason was every morning with the cucumber slices on it. And then we'd get on the set and he'd unload, and he and Jimmy had a great relationship.
Yeah, boy, they were good together.
Everybody did. Yeah. I mean, as I said, John was, I was looking at, you keep thinking and watching and doing, but very, very, not stoic. I remember we were all in a restaurant in a booth, and Lonnie and Bill and a bunch of people and John. And Jason came in, and he was sober, and they were coming in for dinner, and he said, you know, I was walking down the street. I said hello to you, you didn't speak back. And John looked at him and said, I never speak to people in the street. Jason's, it's like one of the wolves or something at Disney, the leers go down, like, oh, I didn't mean to hear that.
Most legends of Wyatt Earp end with the gunfight at the OK Corral. Our story begins there.